2021, I started to spend more time on LinkedIn. And since I've been able to tap into a thriving community where discussions around Web3, crypto, Bitcoin, and AI dive deeper into the larger conversations of tech, society, economics, employment, social media, geopolitics, and much more. One of the leading voices of many of these conversations is this episode's guest, Tiago Amaral. Tiago is the founder of Inevitable, which, as its website says, is an education company focused on providing keynotes, workshops, and advisory for companies that want to understand the impacts of Web3 and AI in their businesses. Inevitable has worked with brands such as MoonPay, Reddit, Vayner3, Pinata, Coindesk, and Metaverse Insider. On this episode, Tiago shares his thoughts on Web3, AI, crypto, building community on LinkedIn, and much more. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is More Than Blockchain. Tiago, welcome to More Than Blockchain. How are you?
Hey, Jarrett. Thank you for having me. I'm great.
So we already kind of spoke off mic a little bit about this, but you're currently in Brazil, and I guess I just kind of want to dive right in. I want to dive right into Inevitable and not waste any time. You've been building Inevitable for some time now. And if you could tell us a little bit about your journey into crypto, into Web3, into tech, and then why Inevitable. Let's dive right in.
Perfect. So my background is mostly in startups and education. And I was the head of product for consulting here in Brazil, focused in providing education about innovation for corporates. So we would go there and provide keynotes, provide workshops, new product development, and so on. And I have been doing this for a couple of years now. And I think maybe in 2017, I started to hear more about crypto and blockchain. Hey, this is going to be huge, and so on. And in December 2020, I decided to go, okay, I need to be part of this. And it was right before all the hype with NFTs. So Bored Ape Yacht Club and X Infinity and NBA Top Shot and so on. And okay, I need to be part of this. I'm not sure, how or what I'm going to build, but I need to be part of this. And Inevitable is like what I was doing before with educating for innovation for these companies, but now focusing much more in Web3 and of course AI, because AI will be everywhere, and I believe AI will help in terms of mass adoption of blockchain. But yeah, that's it. Today, most of my work is doing, education, keynotes, and sometimes advisory for companies that want to understand this space. This space is awesome, is fascinating, but is also very dangerous, and you can feel very overwhelmed if you try to learn everything at once. So yeah, that's it.
That's brilliant. And I think that you've hit upon something that I went through as well, which is like, this is really cool. Where can I find my niche? Where can I find my play? Where can I find my space within what seems sometimes a crowded room? And so what you're doing before was education for tech, for corporates, and now you're just doing that with a focus of AI and Web3. With the corporations that you meet, and we were talking about this yesterday on Not Crypto Bros, what are some of the things that you continually hear from corporates? You're in a room, let's just build a hypothetical. Tiago's in a room with the C-suite of a company, and what's something that you continually hear about? We could start with crypto and then maybe about AI that you're just surprised still exists, knowing what we know now and knowing the information that's out there. It's basically, what are the FUD narratives you hear that are still maybe halting progress that shouldn't?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest is that people think that crypto is blockchain and blockchain is crypto. Of course, they are very attached because everything started with Bitcoin and Satoshi and so on. But crypto is a headache for corporate in general. And if you try to sell the idea of crypto, for a startup or for an individual, that is awesome because they can take more risks and try new things and so on. But if you try to sell the idea of crypto for corporates, this can be a nightmare. So I think we need to try to separate these things. Of course, crypto is important. We are out here trying to develop this space and bring more people in. But sometimes we need to separate these things, and sometimes companies can use blockchain without touching crypto or without going all in crypto, and crypto is the way and let's go. I think this is one point. And also, I think the hype right now with NFTs is, very low because the market and bear market in AI and so on. But I believe that mostly in 2022 and 2021, when we had all that hype around NFTs, a lot of companies they thought that they need to launch their own NFT collection to enter the space. And they saw Nike and Adidas and so on. Hey, we need to launch our own NFT collection or PFP collection. Let's do this 10,000 NFTs and blah blah blah. And okay, this is great for some use cases, but it's not the only strategy you can use to enter this space. And I think when we think about Web3 and blockchain, there are some strategies, but sometimes people think these are the only possible strategies. Like with crypto, like with their own token. Like, oh my God, every week we see companies launching their own token. And maybe they don't need their own token, at least not right now, or at least they need to build their community first and a lot of things before launching their own token. So I think that sometimes they need to enter the space, but they need to map a lot of different strategies before they launch their own token, before then they build their own NFT collection, before they touch crypto. There are a lot of things they can do.
I love what you just said there. And, this podcast and my media channel is called More Than Blockchain because I didn't want to say more than crypto, because crypto is just so triggering to a lot of people. And so I think blockchain is a little bit more honestly nebulous and maybe misunderstood. And it's just kind of like the software. So it's less dangerous, as you've said. And thinking about your branding of Inevitable, and now you've talked about these big companies coming in, and they're like, I think the best example, not the best, but a example that we have is what Porsche tried to do. Porsche has a luxury brand. The world over knows Porsche. Everyone knows Porsche. You see a Porsche, oh, that's a Porsche. And they tried to get into NFTs. So what is something maybe you would have said to Porsche if you could have gotten in a room with them 2 weeks before launch and said, hey, you need to rethink this and why? What would have been maybe your advice, and what would have been maybe an action item?
Yeah, I think that one of the best strategies you can make specifically for NFTs is first you need to understand your cohort of users, and okay, you need to have access to your most engaged users, for example. And why not just giving away some NFTs for them. This doesn't need to be like a huge drop, millions and millions of dollars, because you're still trying to understand the technology. You're still trying to understand if your users are buying your new ventures inside this new space, because today is the most common thing, like users hearing the word NFTs and say, okay, this is trash, I don't want that. So you can start just start these conversations with your most engaged users, because they are already buying your stuff or already talking with your brand. And you start doing that by just giving away something to learn. You need to learn for the first, I don't know, maybe 6 months, 3 months, a year. There is a case from 100 Thieves. They are an esports organization. They drop it like almost a million NFTs for their audience. It was like the celebration for a tournament their team won. and they onboarded like almost 1 million users, and their communication, everything was almost perfect, because they said, hey, we are celebrating this. We are not making any money of this. And the carbon
Footprint.
exactly on this is that, like addressing all the problems, the environmental impact, price and so on in a simple message and say, hey, here is where you can claim this. And then they started to learn, okay, our audience is ready for that, our audience is not ready for that. We are learning with our audience. So I think this is a great way to start, specifically with NFTs. And when you were talking about Web3 as a whole, again, a lot of companies think that they need to start with crypto or, I don't know, launching their own token. But maybe you can, just start creating content in a Web3 platform like Mirror, for example. I have been seeing this for a long time now, and what I see are both creators creating there. So, for example, I am writing on Mirror, but also some VCs and Web3 companies. But I'm not seeing like Web2 companies testing the platform, for example, to just talk about that, just talk about Web3 without trying to sell your NFT collections and making $100 million out of your drop. Okay, these are some use cases, and maybe you can do that and be successful, but it is not only, the only strategy you can follow.
One of the guests I've had on earlier, his name's Saul, and he was saying one of the easiest ways for him to get people, his friends and family, into Bitcoin is just creating them a wallet, doing it for them, and then sending them like $20 or $30 in Bitcoin. Because he says what happens is all of a sudden then they're way more in tune with what's going on. And now that I've kind of set it up and I've showed them that, set it up with them and show them that it's not crazy difficult. And once he sends it to them, it almost brings them in. It's kind of like I think about walking through a mall, and in certain malls, they'll be trying to give you like free chicken or free whatever. And once you try the chicken, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's really tasty. And I'm hungry anyways because I'm in the food court. So why don't I, align my gustos with what I actually want to eat right now? And so that makes perfect sense. And I think that has proliferated, that idea of kind of the free mint, where it's like you don't have to put financial energy into it. And then it's really on the collection or the team or the project to really then bring you the value. And I
Exactly.
think any 10,000 collection, I really try to stay away from if I just think it's going to be a PFP pump, because a lot of people are just there for the money and not there for the community or what the potential real value is. And looking at Inevitable, if you got stuck in the elevator and you had the elevator pitch, what is the utility of working with Inevitable over some other Web3 onboarding for corporates around the world into both Web3 and AI? What is the thing that you're like, this is what we do best? Like, if it were an NFT, because I think when you think about projects as though they're NFTs, sometimes it helps. Like, this is our roadmap. This is our utility. This is our founder's story. So what's the narrative around Inevitable that you think is working? Because I do think it's working. And what's that hook?
Yeah, I think that maybe is my style on this, like very straightforward and no bullshit. I'm not saying this to sound like, hey, Tiago is awesome, but because it's a very dangerous place. Like these are early days, Wild West. So when we talk with these companies, we need to be 100% transparent. I will not say to your company and sit with your company and say, hey, you should launch your NFT collection and I can be your strategic advisor on this and let's make a lot of money. No, because I believe that 99% of companies shouldn't do that. You can have a lot of different strategies, and it will depend on your risk appetite, of course, and your overall strategy and your organization. And if I believe that this is not the right strategy for you, I will say that. If I believe that, hey, maybe you should just start writing on Mirror, or maybe start creating content around Web3, before launching your own token or NFT collection, or maybe you should just buy an NFT for a collection just to enter a community and learn from that before building your own platform and so on. And I think that maybe that's why I have been resonating with people and brands, because I think the space needs this. Like, I think Mark Andreessen said that the original sin of the internet was not having a native financial layer. And with Web3, we have that. Like, we have this native financial layer. And that's great because we have a lot of different business models, a lot of different incentives for companies and so on. But this is very dangerous as well, because you attract a lot of people that are there just for the money and scams and rug pulls and so on. So, yeah, I think that's why.
That native financial layer of the internet, which obviously would have been better if it was built in innately from the beginning, right? We all would have loved that. But now that it's here, I want to ask you, as someone who's currently living in Brazil, how crypto is playing a part, because I'm in Colombia, and this morning I read in Business Week that year over year, Argentina has 100% inflation, 100% of their 100% inflation. And I am someone who's saying, I say is whenever I can, that I think Africa and Latin America are going to lead the way in crypto adoption, strictly due to the fact that in both of these areas, there are political regimes that tend to quell people's voices, quell citizens' voices. And also, there's crazy amounts of inflation and currency devaluation. And so, for you in Brazil, what is the environment there? I mean, Brazil is a massive part of Latin America. It is literally part of one of the BRICS. It is a huge economy, and I think it's a leader in many ways for people in emerging markets. So what Brazil does, other people are starting to do, and I've seen that. I think in the bank, and I may mispronounce this, so please, you can hold me accountable here. Itaú or Itaú, they have been pretty open to crypto. So if you could just talk a little bit about how you're seeing that relationship both in Brazil and then maybe how you think that's going to play out in the Americas up to North America.
Yeah, so it's funny because being Brazilian, and when we hear people in the US or UK or Germany talking about inflation, for us it's like, hey, this is day to day. This is common here. And I believe this is perfect for crypto when it comes, to adoption. And this is why Brazil is one of the leading countries when it comes to crypto adoption. And not just crypto, our entire financial system. Okay, we are not, one of, we are not US or UK, but we have some very, very interesting financial technologies here in Brazil that do not exist the same in the US or the UK. For example, Pix, that is a real time payment system that works perfectly, and you can send money, for other people, and they have accounts in other banks, and that will reach their account like the next second. And this is crazy for some countries. Like, I think India has something similar to that, and maybe other countries, but this is very specific for these countries, and you can find right now, of course, similar things in the US or UK. So in some aspects, here in Brazil, we are way ahead in terms of adoption, not just crypto but other technologies as well. But I think that the thing with Brazil is that first, our government, is always, I think, is always trying to fuck the country. That's the real deal. We are a huge country, a lot of opportunities. We have a very digital population. People love, social media and digital platforms and creators and so on. And I think we will play a huge role for crypto and for blockchain, because we are a huge country and we are a very digital country. But unfortunately, I believe we will never be like the leader when it comes to these technologies. I think we have an important role, but sometimes it just appears that the government, it isn't people. Like when it feels that okay, we reach a new level, we just go back some years, and I think we'll be just there. Like we have some innovations, and that's great. We have a lot of adoption in terms of crypto and blockchain here, and I think this will happen. At the same time, it will never be like a huge country in terms of economics compared to the US or China or the UK for a lot of different perspectives.
It's interesting that you say that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you're like the political climate in Brazil, and I've been watching it from afar, and it sounds unbelievably, it's ridiculous. It's actually the only country I would say, as someone who holds a US passport, that maybe is more ridiculous than the US at times with what happens and the extremism on both sides. But are you basically saying that the political climate won't allow maybe the tech to have more of a mass adoption? Is that what you're saying?
I think we will have because technology will happen, and it's very hard for a government just forbid everything in terms of adoption. I think that will happen, but I believe that it will never be as good as it could be because of everything related to politics here and all the polarization that we are aware. Here in Latin America, you have one bad guy that is president now, and 4 years later you have just another bad guy that is just the other way around in terms of political parties. So I think we'll have a lot of adoption, and the technology will be here, and we'll have huge companies based here in Brazil addressing these problems. For example, Hotmart, they are here from Brazil, and they are one of the huge players in terms of creators economy in the world, and they are here from Brazil. But my point is much more like we will not be as good as big as we could if we have like everything in place.
Yeah, okay, now I'm picking up, and that makes total sense. And something I saw yesterday that was posted is that like South Korea, I think maybe it is the municipality of Seoul, South Korea, or maybe it's just South Korea in general. They're investing millions of dollars from a government level into the metaverse. And maybe that's what you're saying. If the government were more on board, then maybe the technology would be able to kind of take off. And I feel the same way when I think about the United States. You have the average age of Congress, and we talked about this yesterday on our live show, not Crypto Bros. The average age of Congress is 63. I can't imagine that those people are sitting in discords and looking at OpenSea floors, right? So it's interesting to think about how much politics can actually stifle technology. And then on the other side, for me, I'm really seeing Web3 as a way that like is outside of the political realm. It's
Yeah.
outside of our current state situation where, if I have my US passport and I want to come to Brazil, I have to have a visa. If you're in Brazil and you're an average citizen and you don't have a US passport, a US visa, you have to get one. Like we can't maybe even hang out IRL. However, in Web3, I think it's just totally outside. And yesterday we were on a call. We had someone in the UK, someone in Colombia, someone in Canada, and someone in the United States. And we're sitting there talking about NFTs and women led NFTs. And so when you think about Web3, what is for you the most exciting part as someone who I think is really doing a great job of building community online and also onboarding people at a big rate?
Yeah, I think that some aspects are much more long term. So, for example, based on everything you just said, we can think about the network state, the concept that Balaji is building, and that is fucking awesome. Uh, and it's even more awesome if you are from a country like Colombia or Brazil because you want to play in the Ivy League. You want to play, make business with the US, the UK, Japan, and so on. And I think long term, this is awesome. This is something that will happen. We have a lot of things to build to achieve that. More medium and uh, maybe 2 3 years. I think Web3 first in the way that people can really help brands building new products and communities and developing products, developing new brands, and so on. I think this is one of the most fascinating aspects of Web3. This was possible before NFTs and tokens and so on. Of course, it was. But tokens and NFTs are technologies that makes this 10 times faster and easier to build these new communities, technologies, products, and so on. And when we are talking about global markets, people care much more where they help to build. So with the internet and social media, we have people trying to build things with brands. So in social media, for example, they will leave comments, they will like, photos, they will participate in lives and pose and so on. But of course, they are not really building. They are just an audience. They are not a community. And without these Web3 technologies, I think we can transform an audience into a community. And of course, even inside the community, I don't know, 90% of people there will still be very passive. They will just, learn and watch and everything. But for those 10% that are huge fans, they can help building things. And I am a fiction fan, have been writing fiction for a long time. And you can think about, for example, fiction when people are writing fan fiction, for example. That is a huge market. People spend hours and hours and hours writing and discussing fan fiction. For example, discussing Harry Potter and talking about, hey, what if blah blah blah, and they don't receive a penny for that, and sometimes they are even punished for the brands because they are, infringing copyright and so on. And with Web3, we can turn around this. It's a new game where you can spend a lot of time building things, and you're spending a lot of time with that brand, and you can get, awarded for that. We are not saying here just financial rewards. That's awesome, but sometimes it's just not just financial awards. You can be like a high level status in their community, and that is awesome for some people. So sorry, I went too far on that, but short term and medium term, I think these are one of the most interesting aspects for Web3, like how brands will build communities around their brands, around their products. And long term, I think all this concept of network state and a new way to, build societies will be really, really awesome to see. Maybe our children will see that.
I think they will, and I think that you're going to have a big piece in shaping that world. And I was listening to YouTube last night. I was on YouTube last night, and there was a clip from Dave Chappelle, the comedian, and he was talking about exactly what you're talking about. He's like, the money's great, but what I wish I had over the Chappelle show, which is one of the most famous shows, comedic shows, at least in English in the world for me. He said, I wish I had ownership. Because he's like, I would love to go do a new season, but I can't call it Chappelle Show because I don't have ownership over the brand and likeness. And that's so important. And I wanted to share something. And it's amazing that you said the audience community kind of the relationship that has NFT Now for their NFT Now pass that is going to be launching soon, I think. They have a really great graphic, and I want to just read through it because it speaks to exactly what you're saying. It says,
Yeah.
with the audience, it's vanity metrics. With the community, it's digital ownership. With the audience, it's impressions and likes. Like you said, you're just kind of saying, oh, I like that. Oh, that's cool. With the community, it's participation and value. With the audience, it's the attention economy. We have to have people, the monthly active users, they have to be on our platform for 20 minutes a day just so we can basically, run ads at their eyeballs. And with the community, it's the retention economy. With the audience, it's clickbait headlines. With community, it's relevant discourse. So like, am I getting value from whatever I'm interacting with? With the audience, it's a one-way information, so more like talking to, whereas with the community, it's decentralized curation or it's talking with. And then audience is unique visitors and community is unique holders. And it goes back full circle to that idea of ownership. We've kind of touched upon Web3 and what that looks like. I want to shift over to AI because AI is something that I'm still learning about and obviously fascinated about. And even this past week, I shared ChatGPT, which was 3 at the time. Now I know 3.5. Now we're already at 4, and in 2 weeks we'll be at 5, right? How are you using AI personally and professionally to kind of be better, to kind of cut down on redundancies, maybe be more efficient? Like, how has ChatGPT worked into your workflow? And that's just one example. Maybe you have other examples of AI and how it's helping you.
Yeah, I have used AI in the past. Some platforms, for example, like Synthesia, to produce content and so on. But I got one year. Like I don't think like in 6 months everything is changing. And right now, I have been playing with some platforms, mostly Mid Journey, that I think that's really scary. Like every time I use it, it's really scary. And also, Leonardo is another text to image awesome platforms, and you can create and train your own models there without any code, which is awesome. I think this is very, very important for the future. These are I'm creating more in an experimental way, like to create some images and so on. And ChatGPT, I was using the Open AI playground like last year before ChatGPT to make some translations and see if everything was correct and try new things and try new prompts. Content ideas and so on. But of course, with ChatGPT, this is easier. And I like to use it to organize, to organize content. I think AI, with all the hype we have right now, AI is about productivity. At the end of the day, is a technology that will increase our productivity 100 times in the next years, the same way internet did in the last 30. So sometimes it's very hard to just put on the screen or put on paper everything that you are trying to say, everything that you are trying to build, the building blocks, for example, for a talk that you are given. And I think for this kind of use case, ChatGPT is perfect because you have like a lot of different inputs in your head, and you just need to organize that, or maybe you just need to rephrase something or rewrite something that you wrote but is not in the perfect tone you need. Okay, you can just put a prompt there, and that's it. In 10 seconds you have everything you need.
I love that you talked about it being a productivity thing because the way I talk about AI when people ask me, I'm like, well, there was a time where we didn't have calculators. Maybe we had the abacus, but if you and I took a test in the 1930s, we probably didn't have calculators. And if we were taking a math test, it took us an hour. And then all of a sudden we have calculators. Now it takes us 20 minutes. Well, we've just saved 40 minutes. And if we could save 40 minutes every day and still be right, still get to the same conclusion, that could eventually speed up. And with AI, obviously, it's beyond a calculator and not having a calculator analogy. But I'm very interested to see how people are using it, especially you as a content creator, because I'm also creating content and I need to start to add it into my workflow. And when you think about talking to a corporation, or like, let's put you back in the C-suite, Tiago in the room with the C-suites, how are you onboarding people and using, leveraging AI to help companies?
So I think first we need to address some misconceptions on this, that like people are saying, hey, this will steal millions and millions of jobs. And I think that in fact that will happen. We need to be real on that. That will happen. The real thing is that how these new platforms and new technologies will help to rise new jobs and new skills and so on. So when we think about the creator economy, this thing didn't exist like 15 years ago or something like that. We had like some creators in television and so on, but not in the way we have today. And then we have all this huge ecosystem of tools, of specialists, of experts, of companies building for that, you know. And these new technologies, they created new jobs. So social media, for example, was not a thing, you know, and today is a huge market. You have your own tools just for social media and so on. And of course, the same will happen with all these new AI tools. So I think that people need to be real in thinking that, yes, some of their skills and even maybe their job will be taken, and that will happen. This is sorry, but this is inevitable. But the real thing is, okay, how are we going to address that in your career or your company? Because the tools are there. You know, the tools are here. You can start today using these tools and learning how you can build new platforms or new tools or a new career based on these new skills. So, like content, for example, is something that will be, you know, really impacted for with AI, ChatGPT, Midjourney, and so on. If people can create content in 10 seconds using ChatGPT, and then they can create this beautiful image using Midjourney, another 10 seconds, in 30 seconds, they have a new piece of content they can publish. This is awesome in terms of productivity, again, but what is important is, okay, which is the story behind that content? Because if content is getting more and more commoditized, and it is already a commodity today, content is a commodity and will be more and more a commodity in the next few years. If content is a commodity today, what is the story behind that content? And other important points are, for example, distribution. In a world where anyone can create any piece of content, distribution is 100 times more important than it was before. And also other points like authenticity and humanity. So one important point that I think people are missing, and this is related to both blockchain and AI, is that when we have a world that is, you know, run using AI and smart contracts, you have automation everywhere. Being human is more important than ever. So I think this is like a pendulum. You know, when you have a lot of automation and a lot of technology, human aspects will be even more important.
It's almost like you read my mind because I saw the comment you left on Igor Scaldini's post this morning, which
Yeah.
touches on that exact idea. And that is something that I firmly believe that the more that we spend time on the internet, the relationships that we have in IRL become that much more important, which is a flip because it used to be when I was a kid, the people that I spoke to on the internet were really important when I'd get on AIM back in the 90s, AIM, you know, America Online. And that was a secret relationship I had. And it was a sacred relationship because it only existed in that space. And 95% of my time was in IRL, and I'm using air quotes. But when we flip, and now I work my job on my computer. Now, if you want to date, you can download an app. If you're hungry, you can just you click a button and it comes right to your door. If you want to get a plane ticket, you don't need to talk to a travel agent anymore. I can just get it from my phone. Everything, there are a few things in life that I can't just get from my phone instantaneously. And I'm putting that in air quotes too, because maybe it takes a day or two for Amazon to bring it to my home. But in that world, if I want to spend time with you, there's a future where you and I are going to be chilling in Brazil and Colombia or wherever in IRL though, physically. And people are like, wow, Tiago must be a big deal for Jarrett because he just spent 2 hours at an IRL lunch. That is insane, you know? So I am completely on board with that. And I think that maybe that goes to why you keep using the word scary and dangerous, right? As we kind of transform the way humanity communicates. And on that, I want to definitely touch upon what you've been doing on LinkedIn, because I think you have struck a chord with people and able to build a community around your personal brand and also around Inevitable as we kind of switch into this world where maybe we're 95% on the internet and we're looking for that community. We're looking for that value. We're looking for that signal amongst the noise, as you're saying, when you can just create content, you can create 60 pieces of content a day. What is the narrative you think that you have and Inevitable has that has resonated with people on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think that first I was very lucky because first of all, this was not my dream. Like I am much more a low profile guy. So I love like those entrepreneurs that are, low profile and they are building huge businesses, and that's awesome. And trying LinkedIn was like, okay, I need a channel to communicate with people and try to grow the business. And I think I entered LinkedIn and started to share about NFTs and Web3 in a very, very specific moment that was awesome. It was like January last year, 2022, and like the hype was big, and everyone wanted to learn more about NFTs and so on. So I think the timing was important, and I also think that I like to write, so maybe this is easier for me because I have been writing for a long time, and creating content is not that difficult for me. So, and ChatGPT will probably steal that skill from me. And also, I think maybe that style of being straightforward and no bullshit, because sometimes people, I don't know, people maybe try to draw a rainbow, in everything. And hey, this is Web3, everything is awesome. And I have been saying that Web3 is very dangerous from a corporate and individual standpoint. And you need to be careful with your strategies. You need to be there, but you need to be careful. With AI, the same thing. Like I have been saying this, like your job or some of your skills, probably an AI will be doing that, 5 years from now. So you need to keep pushing. You need to keep discovering new things, and maybe I think that style is good for people, besides all the rainbow. Oh, okay, Web3 is the future, let's decentralize everything. Yeah, this decentralization is great, but sometimes it's not the perfect strategy to onboard people, at least not at the beginning.
I agree. I think Web3 is all about transparency and being super honest and not hiding or like withholding or seeming like you know something and you're not being 100% transparent and authentic. And I think that's really resonated. So, do you want to take a moment and shout out where people can find you? Obviously, shout out your LinkedIn and talk about where people can find Inevitable.
Sure, you can find me on LinkedIn, Tiago Amaral. You see my photo from my wedding that I use everywhere. That's my best photo, so I'm reusing that everywhere. And also my website, tiagoamaral.xyz. There you have like my books. I have been writing and publishing some books. They are available on Amazon, but also for free on Mirror for those who can buy. Yeah, I think my LinkedIn and my website are the best ways to find me.
Well, thank you so much. I'll throw those links in the show notes, and I look forward to continuing to connect with you on LinkedIn and follow your journey with Inevitable. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jarrett. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for checking out this episode of More Than Blockchain, and be sure to check out this episode's show notes if you want to get in touch with Tiago or learn more about Inevitable. As always, please follow us on social media at More Than Blockchain, and no matter where you're listening to us, please go ahead and subscribe. And if you gained something from this episode, go ahead and share the link with a friend, colleague, or family member. You can DM it, email it, or just text it. Thanks again for checking out this episode of More Than Blockchain, and I'll see you next time.